Thanks for tuning in. Today's sermon is about forgiveness. It's based on the text from the Gospel of Matthew where Peter comes and asks, Lord, how many times do we need to forgive? 7? And Jesus says, not 7, I tell you, but 77 times. Forgiveness is something every person has wrestled with. But as Christians, we're called to work on forgiveness. I hope this sermon gives you some things to think about today. And thanks for joining us. Don't forget to click subscribe so that you'll be notified every time we release a new sermon and a song. God bless you. Today's gospel includes Jesus' best known instructions on forgiveness. Peter asked how many times another member of the church is to be forgiven, and Jesus insists that forgiving someone 7 times isn't enough. The offending member must be forgiven 77 times. This number, of course, probably shouldn't be taken literally, but it does communicate the urgency. Forgiveness is an essential part of Christian community, and forgiveness must be an important act to all Christians. To emphasize his point, Jesus tells the story of a king who's owed a debt by one of his slaves. At the moment that the king expects to be paid, one slave isn't able to make the payment, and as a result will be sold along with his wife and children. The slave pleads to the king to be given more time. The king has mercy on him and forgives him the debt completely. But then the slave does not extend the same kindness to a fellow slave who owes him a debt. When the king finds out, he reinstates the original debt and has the slave tortured until he can repay it. Is God the king in this story? Are we the slaves? Or is this parable designed to reinforce that idea that's found in the Lord's Prayer, that our forgiveness of others is tied to our ability to receive God's forgiveness? Whatever interpretation you prefer, this much is clear. Jesus takes forgiveness seriously. And Jesus is making the point that our ability to forgive others is essential for our own spiritual well-being. We don't practice forgiveness because the person who harmed us deserves it. We practice forgiveness because carrying around anger and resentment changes who we are. It diminishes our spirit. Have you ever heard of a spite house? A spite house is a house that is built for the express purpose of annoying your neighbors. That's right. It's a very public, visible, and permanent expression of your anger with someone. There are some well-known spite houses. In Marblehead, Massachusetts, on Orange Street, Thomas Wood, a sailmaker, built a house in 1716 known as the Old Spite House. The 10-foot house is just tall enough to block the view of 2 other houses. It was built because Thomas was upset because in his father's will, he only received a tiny portion of what his brother did. So, with his portion of the estate, Thomas built a house designed to block his older brother's view. The Richardson Spite House in New York City was built on Lexington and 82nd Street. Joseph Richardson owned this plot of land that was only 5 feet deep and 104 feet wide. He tried to sell that portion of land that he owned to Hyman Sarner, but Hyman Sarner said, "It's useless, it's too small." Richardson asked for $5,000, and Sarner said, "It's only worth $1,000. So instead, Richardson built a building 5 feet deep and 104 feet wide, 4 stories tall. Finally, you may know about the Westboro Baptist Church in Topeka, Kansas. It's known for its anti-LGBTQ stance. Well, an organization called Planting Peace bought the house across the street from the Westboro Baptist Church, and it painted that house in the colors of the rainbow flag. It's funny, the concept of a spite house, but it's also sad that you can become so committed to annoying the person who hurt you, to seeking revenge, that you are literally willing to live in that house, 5 feet wide, 10 feet wide, across the street from your enemy. It's designed to frustrate your neighbors. Think about that. Building a house, living in a house every day that isn't designed to make you happy, but designed to make someone else unhappy. That's a huge investment to make. That's a lot of money, a lot of time, hours and days and months and years of your life invested in making someone else miserable. I wonder if the person who offered too little money for the property, or the older brother who received the larger part of his father's inheritance, gave much thought to the weird, skinny houses that were built to upset them. Here's the thing about forgiveness. I am not suggesting that no one hurt you. I am not suggesting that you pretend that no harm was done. I am certainly not suggesting that you trust them again or that you put yourself in a position to be hurt by them again. We have feelings and experiences so that we can learn from them. But all of us have been hurt, every single one of us. And when we are hurt, we have 3 choices. We can hold on to that hurt. We can build our metaphorical houses right next to theirs. We can do everything in our power to let them know that they have hurt us. We can remind ourselves every day, every morning when we look out our window about the hurt we experienced once. But when we do that, we have let their sin define our life. They hurt us once upon a time, but as long as we continue to hold on, that hurt will stay with us, weigh us down, cause us to relive the trauma over and over. The second option is we can let it go. We can decide that the pain they caused us was awful, but it's over. We can decide to protect ourselves in the future. In fact, I don't think you can forgive someone until you are safe from continuing harm. But when you are safe, you can put down your anger, your pain. You can't forget what happened. You should definitely learn the lessons, but you can let it go. Because until you let it go, it will continue to define you. Until you let it go, you will be defined by someone else's mistake. Finally, if you can't let it go, but you want to, or you want to let it go, you can pray for that. You can ask God to help you let it go. You can pray for the person who hurt you. You can ask God to help you take away the hate in your heart. How often should we forgive? As often as 7 times? No, I tell you, 77 times. Because we were not created to hold on to grudges. We were not created to harden our heart to others. We were created for love and light by a God whose infinite power courses through every atom in the universe. So we stretch and grow and become and love and forgive. Amen.